Namaskar and welcome to this exciting new episode of Sattology Debunking Mythology. We are continuing on the last topics with a very good friend and researcher and author, and has consistently uh, been presenting these topics for many decades now. And he has done so much research, and so we'll hear from him again. So, one of the things, important things, is there is an ultimate scientific basis to everything written in Vedic scriptures, but it usually depends on the person who is reading it, how they view it. And Nilesh ji has a particular eye for a detail on mathematics aspect of the Vedic culture, which makes it more scientific because the numbers never lie. We all know that. Everything else can be subjective, but numbers are purely objective. So without delay, let us welcome Shri Nilesh Oak.
Namaskar, Aditya ji. And today will be our fourth part and the last part in the series on Bhishma Nirvana. And so, quick word to we have quite a wonderful group of audience today. I mean, again, as usual, we are from the East Coast to West Coast, but never heard this kind of a diversity. So we have yoga instructors, we have people in yoga from yoga studios, of course, from business schools to medical schools, from coast to coast. And what else you mentioned? Rajput Association, wonderful. Like Kshatriyas, and we need intellectual Kshatriyas in this field. And then there is a sheriff who is also a great sharpshooter. You also mentioned a yoga uh, prize winner,
Scientist.
prize
Yeah,
winner
Zeb Ahmed,
3 years.
yoga
Yeah,
prize winner.
3 years in a row. We have yoga scientist. What else? Um, when you said that, and we also have a pastor from a church in Kansas, right? So amazing, and then yoga instructors, excellent. And my quick word to them, if they have not been part of the previous 3 episodes on Bhishma Nirvana, to definitely go back to Sattology YouTube channel and watch those to make sense of what we are going to cover today. Okay.
Yeah, it's a what I feel is that the Bhishma was such a tall figure personality, and so less has been spoken about him. And his life was an example of giving. Like he
Mhm.
gave up his rights to the kingdom, he gave up his rights, like such great things he has done, and his character. But his character is accentuated in the last moments of his life also.
Mhm.
It is usually said, a man's life in the way they leave their body. And somehow, Bhishma comes out with that kind of personality where even while leaving, he's leaving a gem of knowledge, which we are discussing today after so many thousands of years,
Right.
and and taking inspiration from it.
Right. And Aditya ji, I will see what you just said. How we die is also equally important. It's not always in our hand. We can do our best. We die to take the new body, and then the journey continues. But we need assets to get the better body, the better life next time. And therefore, Tukaram, the Maharashtra son, said, he says it. I'll say it in Marathi. You have to translate it for the audience. What you just said, essentially how you die. And therefore, Tukarama says, Yajaसाठी kela hota attahasa, शेवटचा दिन गोड व्हावा. You have to translate that.
Now, I'll just add to that a little bit here, because the gems of wisdom are. So when we talk about Bhishma, you said so well. You can understand what Tukaram has said, but the people, they think that generally, if the relatives are surrounding us and if everyone else is surrounding us who are loved ones, but in Vedic culture that is considered the worst, because then you will be again taking birth in again taking birth, because mukti is not going to come.
Mhm,
The successful yogi also become mukt also.
mhm.
Otherwise, the yoga is not successful.
Right.
And most of these yoga instructors, we have the same bandwidth in terms of thinking, that after becoming perfect in hatha yoga, they they have something else to attain now. because that flexibility is not going to remain forever.
Right.
Even for BK Saingar also, he was very flexible till 95, but he said something else in the end. He said that that was just the physical part of it, the mental and the is something else. Without
Mhm.
taking much time, let's get into the presentation.
Okay,
And
perfect.
Bhishma is teaching us a lot of things, and here we are analyzing when this thing appeared and when what happened here.
All right, so I'm going to directly jump into the presentation. Okay, and if we have time at the end, we can get back to this subject. Very interesting. And
Tukaram. Yeah,
if you Aditya, if you remind me, uh, just as a keyword, remind me like the Sapta Chiranjeev, and
correct.
I would love. I mean, you would know what I'm going to, where I'm going to go. But it will be great to talk about that also. In this context of finding a best opportunity, best situation to actually leave this body and be ready for the next round,
Right.
and why that is that critical. So we have covered three parts: the Bhishma Nirvana, the evidence related to Bhishma Nirvana, which is Bhishma is one of the principal characters of the Mahabharata, which is one of the two epics, that history, that is the Itihasa. Itihasa is much more than a history, but that is preserved for us, which also includes history. And we are, in fact, focusing on a specific historical fact. And so this is our fourth and the last part. This is to tell you that, this is to give you some glimpse of how accurate, how precise the knowledge exists in ancient Indian narratives. This is in no way the detailed information what is either in Mahabharata or related to Bhishma Nirvan. So my hope is that those who are listening right now, but also those who watch on the YouTube, uh, feel energized, feel excited, inspired, and think of going back to or going to the text of Mahabharata with appropriate translations, and just see how fascinating this text is, which tells you, of course, about the history, but it also takes you a lot more about science and culture and technology, and you just name it, the philosophy, the tattvajnan, but also the darshanas, like practice, how to experience it yourself, like as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, pratyaksha avagamyam dharmyam. So quickly to summarize what we have done so far in the three parts, this is what we established in the previous three parts, that Bhishma was on the bed of arrows from the 10th day of the war until the day of winter solstice for a minimum of 92 days. And this is such a unique situation, unique in the sense that although there are more than 100 plus different claims for the year of Mahabharata war, only 1 year can validate this particular set of observations. There are like 30, 40, 50, 100 plus references that go in supporting this 92 days. That's, so that's the only 1 year is 5561 BC. Then we looked at some last time astronomy poison pills. And poison pills, we will get to that. Actually, Bhagavad Gita talks about the poison pills and the what it does, the magic of poison pills. Okay, how it gives you at the end, gives you a wonderful experience. Like that's what we are talking today. Bhishma's life was a tough life. You think of his whole long life, okay, but the shevat was good. Sweet end, we can say. So the second poison pill we looked at is Mahabharat war did occur during the first half of Sharat season, like the pre-autumn season. We also found out, based on evidence, that Mahabharat war happened during the month of Margashirsha. Then we also looked at that the Mahabharat war happened during the lunar month of Margashirsha, and of course, the first half of Sharat. So when you combine this, immediately it takes us to a very specific time interval in antiquity within which only the Mahabharat war can happen. It cannot happen anytime after 4500 BCE. It cannot happen anytime before 7000 BC. We also quickly looked at no pole star during the Mahabharata times. Okay, we also looked at how there were two pole stars. Right now, we only have one pole star, by the way, only in the northern hemisphere. At the time of Ramayana, Mahabharata, there were no pole stars on the either side. At the time of Ramayana, there were pole stars, brightest pole stars on both sides. Just a coincidence, and it is preserved in Ramayana. It is also preserved in Surya Siddhanta, and that takes us right away instantaneously to 12,000 BC time period. So Brahma Rashi and Agastya were two pole stars during Ramayana. All right. So what are we going to do today? The last poison pill. Okay. We have looked at three or four. I can't keep count of those. We will get back to it at the end. In fact, I'm going to show you, Aditya ji, there are 8 of them, not from Bhishma Nirvana, 7 from Bhishma Nirvana, and one more. That's something you are familiar with. So today, let's look at the big poison pill, number 4. When I wrote my first book, when did the Mahabharata war happen? In 2011. Actually, I got to a very specific date because there is a lot of evidence in Mahabharata text, 300 plus specific astronomy observations. But even then, I mean, so I was very confident about the Kartik Amavasya as the first day of the war, but there was nothing explicit to tell me that the Kartik Amavasya is the only day. Today we will see, when I wrote the Bhishma Nirvana almost 8 years after the first book, say 7 years after the first book in 2018, when I wrote my third book, I could show that actually Mahabharata evidence is so precise, so accurate, that there is no other day but Kartika Amavasya is possible for the first day of the Mahabharata war, which I did not know, by the way, in 2011 or even 2015. Okay. So quickly, again, this is a bit technical. If we get it, great. If not, at least it remains as a recording on the YouTube. People can go back to it and it will come back. We looked at how or why Bhishma was on the bed of arrows for minimum of 92 days. When we combine that evidence with the description of the phases and the positions of the moon through the 18 days of the war, and that all evidence is extremely rich evidence that runs through Bhishma Parva, Drona Parva, Karna Parva, Shalya Parva, Sauptik Parva, and Stri Parva. And frankly, it continues through Shanti Parva, Anushasan Parva, and Ashwamedha Parva. But I'm looking at only the 18 days of the war, which is what? Just first 4 Parva. What you find is that this evidence is extremely decisive on 2 things. The first thing is that the first day of the Mahabharata war has to be Amavasya and maybe plus minus 1 day max. Okay. The second thing is that most of the war took place during the Shukla Paksha, the bright half of the lunar month. And then when we look at the positions of the full moon or positions of the moon, it also tells us that it was the month of Margashirsha. So now if we take this information, and I'm going to go fast through this slide, I showed you the all 6 seasons and why we have to start with the winter solstice, because that is the day Bhishma passed away. And then we have to go backwards to 92 days, at least 92 days, and at least plus 10 more days to get to the first day of the Mahabharata war. All right. So now I'm just quickly making a quick summary here. There is a other reference that tells us in Mahabharata, that tells us that after Bhishma passed away, there were a lot of things that happened, but one of the significant one is Arjuna left from Hastinapur area, went across the Himalayas, went to the north of Himalayas, and from the kingdoms of that area, which were paying taxes to the Hastinapur kingdom or Indraprastha kingdom, and this is referring to the area of Uttara Kuru, Uttara Madra, which gets into the Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Xinjiang province of Western China, and so on. So he actually went there, he collected the taxes because the treasury is empty, and he came back and he returned to Hastinapur before Chaitra full moon. So now, Aditya ji, I don't know how long that would take, but it won't be 2 days, or it won't be 10 days, or it won't be 5 days. It has to be a significant time, possibly 20 days, 30 days, or even longer. All right. So that gives us the restriction. Now, we also looked at the other references in the first part that Mahabharata war cannot begin even a day earlier than Kartik Amavasya. That is also clear. So what does this tell us? And also we have one more constraint, which is to say there has to be minimum of 92 days between the 10th day of the war and winter solstice. So which means add 10 days. So minimum of 102 days between the winter solstice and the first day of the war. Suppose, just as a limiting case, if we take this Chaitra moon, understand that it cannot be Chaitra moon. Actually, we have to give a sufficient time after Bhishma Nirvana from that day to Chaitra moon. But just to show you why Kartika Amavasya is the only day possible, if we begin as a limiting case, okay, from Chaitra moon, 30 days to Falguna full moon, then from Falguna full moon to Magha full moon, we are going backwards in time, another 30 days. Magha full moon to Pausha full moon is another 30 days. Plus, we have to go 2 days and plus additional 10 days to go to the first day of the war. So what will that do? That will bring us very close to the Margashirsha Amavasya, okay, the end of Margashirsha. But remember, we have to give sufficient time for Arjun to leave from Indraprastha, Kurukshetra, Hastinapur region, cross the Himalayas, go to the north to Uttarakuru, Uttaramadra and those areas, collect the taxes and come back. So we need to leave time here. So with 0 days for Arjuna to go and come back, we are already at the beginning of a Margashirsha Amavasya, only 2 days left. And 2 days is not sufficient for him to go and come back, which means now the next thing jump we have to do is the Kartika Amavasya, because it's very clear that it began on Amavasya. It cannot be Margashirsha Amavasya. So now it has to be Kartika Amavasya, which means the end of Kartika month. Okay. And then that leaves possibly what, like around 20-25 days for 25 plus days for Arjun to go to the north and come back. That is
Just
even a
want to
compressed
add,
time.
just
Yeah,
want
go
to
ahead.
add one thing. Arjun actually knew many paths and the ways to cross the Himalayas, lower as well as higher,
Hmm.
because they were able to go in a certain way which reduces the time. Most of the
Hmm.
people don't know, but if you go to Pahadi people,
Hmm.
then Pahadi people, they cross the mountain within a day or two,
Hmm.
and with a huge entourage also.
Correct, correct. No, I mean, that's a very valid point, but that's not relevant to this. In the sense, still, Arjuna is not going to leave from Indraprastha and go across to Uttarakurun, Uttaramadra and come back in two
Yeah,
days.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Not
So
not possible.
as soon as that is off, we are going to Kartika
No,
Amavasya.
what I'm saying here is much more time given here, 30 days,
Yes, yeah. That gives you much more time.
much
Otherwise,
more
you are
time.
only left with the 2 days. So Margashirsha Amavasya is not answer. So that is the last poison pill that was left. Okay. Now, this one is very interesting. See, this is what we were talking more verbally. Like I have shown through some diagrams, like the shift, the precession of the Earth's axis, the astronomy phenomenon, which forms the basis for dating ancient civilizations around the world. It's it's so convenient for dating Indian civilizations because the Indian ancient narratives are full of astronomy references. But in some ways that is also true for all world civilizations. Okay, for example, take the civilization like Mayan civilization, Inca civilization. Unfortunately, uh, all their texts have been burnt or destroyed or lost, I mean, all three categories. So that's very sad. Otherwise, just imagine what a wonderful knowledge that we would have found from those South American civilization. Ditto for Egyptian civilizations. The pyramids have survived, but again, all the Egyptian text, they are gone.
Yeah.
The whole Alexandria library was burnt, and all the texts are gone. But here, what I want to show you is this. Now, what you are seeing right now, see, this is the position. So, okay, so quickly, I mean, in case this is something new for everyone here. But what we are saying, I don't want to explain everything. I just want to say this is the point of vernal equinox here. The blue line is the path of the sun. You can see the path of the sun as seen from the earth. That is this blue line. And so we are looking at this vernal equinox in the modern times. That is like a 22nd or 23rd of March. Okay, that's the point we are seeing here. That is where sun would be. And in our times, the sun is near Uttara Bhadrapada, between Revati, Uttara Bhadrapada, Purva Bhadrapada, somewhere there. Okay, so in our times, the summer solstice is near Mrugashirsha Ardra Nakshatra. Okay, the winter solstice near Ashada, and the autumnal equinox, for example, near Falguni, and this one is near Ashwini. So that's why we see exactly the opposite, right? So the sun's position is here, and therefore the time of autumn comes around Ashwin. Now actually it goes into further earlier, like Bhadrapada. Okay, so this is the scenario for us. Just remember this: the background nakshatras, there are 27 nakshatras. They will remain the same, but I'm going to show you the next picture for the timing of Mahabharata. And notice what happens. Notice this vernal equinox right now. Vernal equinox is here next to Uttara Bhadrapada. Okay. And summer solstice is near Ardra Mrugashirsha. Remember, this is a complete cycle of 26,000 years. So approximately what? 6,500 years between any two cardinal points. 6,500 years approximately between any two cardinal points. Okay. So I'm going to take you to the next one. And this is the time of Mahabharata. And notice what happened. Look at the Earth's axis. It's pointing in a different direction than it was doing in our times, what I showed you on the previous page. But the vernal equinox, which was here near Uttara Bhadrapada, has moved to Ardra, between Mrugashirsha and Ardra, somewhere there. Okay. So that's what we are talking about, the change of cardinal points with respect to nakshatra. And therefore, the lot of things happen, like the location of the pole, North Pole star. I mean, which is a North Pole star changes, where depending on the location of the NCP, which lunar month matches with a certain season, that also changes. And we looked at all these various things. Okay, now we are going to bring all these things together. So Arundhati Vasishtha observation, which we have not discussed in a Sattology series, and Aditya ji, we will definitely do that in some point in future. But what Arundhati Vasishtha observation did when I did this 11 years ago is that it says the Mahabharata war is not possible even a day late, month late, year late than 4508 BC. It's not possible anytime before 11,091 BC. And my good friend, who is also happens to be Hare Krishna devotee, Siddhartha Chabra, Aditya, do you happen to know him?
No.
No, okay. I have to introduce you. A wonderful person. So he thought of checking what I had done. Is this true? And what he did that in 2019, very recently. So he looked at the most recent data from Hubble telescope and whatnot. And actually what that did, the second line, the purple color, that the conclusion is valid. In fact, the time interval even shrinks further. And so what does that mean is that the Mahabharata war is only possible before 4636 BC, after 10,248 BC. And again, I'm saying it's at 5561 BC. Now let us see what this Bhishma Nirvana evidence does. The very first part that we did, the very first portion of Bhishma Nirvana, part 1, we showed based on the evidence of 92 days that the Bhishma Nirvana, or therefore Mahabharata war, is possible only after 7000 BC, before 4700 BC. When we went to the next part, the second part, we showed that Mahabharata war happened during Margashirsha. It also happened during the first half of Sharad season. And what that does, astronomically, when you bring it together, is that Mahabharata war is possible only after 6722 BC, before 4562 BCE. Okay, so we are putting constraints on when this is possible using rich, decisive astronomy evidence. And today, what I just showed you, the constraints of Kartik Amavasya on one side, before which a Mahabharata war cannot begin, and Bhishma Nirvana must happen in such a way that there are a good number of days left before Chaitra full moon occurs. And when we looked at that, it gave us the additional constraint, which is what? Say from 7285 BC to 5125 BC. And if we have to take the most inner interval, that gives us a 1600-year time period from 5125 BC to 6722 BC, within which the Mahabharata war must take place. Now, this is something I'm telling you, that's something I explored more over last 10 years. When I started in 2009, or when actually I solved the Arundhati Vasishtha problem in 2009, only thing I had was that 4508 BC and 11,091 BC. So then I went to the planetary evidence. There are hundreds and hundreds of astronomy pieces of evidences. That brought me to 5561 BC. But what is beautiful here is that even when you go into some additional research, which I fortunately could do, it did not conflict with that 5561 BC, but it's pointing all the way towards that 5561 BC. Okay, so in sort of a summary, Aditya ji, so I listed those poison pills, okay? and they added up to 8. I'll show you where they are, and then we'll go into this. So if those people who are listening today and those people who would be listening when the YouTube video comes out, now they have a simple checklist to ask any Mahabharata researcher from, say, Harvard in at Boston to Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute in Pune, okay? No, and everyone in between on both sides of the globe, okay? Doesn't matter which direction. And if they choose, they can go from a North Pole to South Pole, and that's perfectly fine too. But any Mahabharata researcher, and we have many, and there are more than 100 plus claims, but they can ask these questions. So first question is, does your claim have 92 plus days between the 10th day of the war and winter solstice? And I can tell you the answer in advance. Unless the year is 5561 BCE, no other Mahabharata researcher with a straight face, okay, and with integrity will able to say yes to that first question. Second question, is the first day of the war Kartik Amavasya? Now, there are other researchers, Adityaji, many other researchers who also take Kartik Amavasya as the first day of the war. So there will be a good number of Mahabharata researchers or research claims who will say, yes, for my claim of the year, Kartik Amavasya is the first day. So there will be some who will do that. But if you ask them immediately the first question, they are going to become Muni in a different way. Okay, they will not say a word, okay, or they will go on some tangent. The next question to ask is Margashirsha the lunar month of the war? Again, you will find a good number of researchers who will say yes, the Margashirsha is a good number of Margashirsha is the lunar month of the war, even for their claim. So they will able to say yes to that also. Is the timing that of the first half of Sharat season? And something very interesting, Adityaji, other than 5561 BC, no other Mahabharata researcher, okay, alive or dead, will ever able to say yes to that question number 4. But that is what Mahabharata evidence is telling us. So we are looking very unemotionally. That is what the science does. Samyak Jnan, it demands us to be neutral when we are looking at this thing, not bring our emotion. In fact, Gautama in his Nyaya says we make mistakes, we make blunders, errors, okay? And the reason is raga, dvesha, moha, because we are attached to certain outcome, or we detest another outcome, or we are stupid. These are the words of Sage Gautama. We are intellectually not competent, that muda or moha. So we are doing very neutral fashion, So the next one is your claim between 7000 BC and 4700 BC. And my guess is, I don't have the exact number, maybe 4 or 5 people will able to say yes out of 130 to this number, okay? Next claim, is your claim between 6722 BC and 4562 BC? Again, I would say 4 or 5 people will fall there. Is your claim between 7285 BC and 5125 BC? Again, 4 or 5 people will definitely fall into that. But the very first question and question number 4, no one other than 5561 BC will able to say yes, okay? And then there is one more. This is not from the series that we did on Bhishma Nirvana. Sometimes we will do it. And so therefore I said, don't forget, which is that Arundhati Vasishta observation. But Aditya ji has done this with on the Arundhati Vasishta, or rather you can say a critique or criticism of Arundhati Vasishta observation. Dr. Manish Pandit ji has done it with Aditya ji on the Sattology. And we will do this to explain why that is wrong. But I would encourage every one of you to watch those episodes, okay? Because as a Purva Paksha, they must watch those episodes to understand why it is wrong and what is the beauty of Arundhati Vasishta observation. Again, it will lead you to that particular time frame, 10,248 BC to 4636 BC, thanks to Siddhartha Chabraji. He even made the interval further tighter. So again, in that interval, 4, 5 claims will fall. The same. So if you look at number 5, 6, 7, and 8, there would be around 4 or 5 or 6 claims who can say that yes, the claim falls there. And then number 2 and number 3, you can easily have 10, 15, 20 Mahabharata researchers who will say the war began for even their claim on Kartika Amavasya and during the Margashirsha. but number 1 and number 4, so those are really the lethal astronomy poison pills. And of course all these too, because number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, 96% plus of Mahabharata researchers and Mahabharata claims are will not able to say yes to number 5, number 6, number 7, and number 8. Now, what is the message there? Actually, we started with Shiva drinking the poison at one point because we said astronomy poison pills. And you today, what did you begin with? Oh yeah, how to select the timing of your death, right? And that's why we are doing this whole yoga. The bending backwards, you can say, and the meditation, and say for example, all different religious traditions. If you go, the prayers or the chanting, or whatever meditation people are doing. Is a pure kind, you can say. And the word says, yatad agre vishamiva pariname amrutopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. Okay. So the meaning of that is something that feels like a poison, but in the end, it's like ambrosia. Okay. Pariname amrutopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. A knowledge obtained in such a fashion that initially it feels like a lot of hard work, even unbelievable, improbable. How can this be possible? Things like that. But something that is acquired with your own effort, okay, that feels like a pure effort. That feels very satisfying. Prasadajam. Something interesting just came to my mind, so I'll mention it. Sir William Jones came to during the British colonial times. He came as a judge from England, judge for the British system, to force the British system on Hindus there, to Kolkata now. And he fell in love with the Indian narratives, Sanskrit, and that's where he started comparing the languages, access Panini, and that's when the Europeans started making a connection between their languages in a methodical fashion. Now he started one medal, like to encourage Europeans to learn Sanskrit, because he could see how much knowledge is there and it needs to be extracted for benefits, all the commercial benefits, but he might have some better ideas. This second line that you see, Tatsukham Satvikam Proktam Atma Buddhi Prasadajam, is engraved on that Sanskrit medal that Sir William Jones initiated. Okay, it's next time if I can find, I'll find a medal with this engraved on it. The second line, Tatsukham Satvikam Proktam Atma Buddhi Prasadajam, that is the knowledge that And so, yes, although a researcher spends so much time doing this, and in principle, no reward, no financial reward, but not even other rewards. Usually what you get is abuse. Okay, and then so those people who are watching or will watch, I mean, if you want to get into this, I'll tell you, it's an extremely satisfying thing to do. I can tell you that from all that I have done over the last 25-30 years. But you have to get used to the abuse. In fact, you have to learn to enjoy the abuse. Okay, when it's like, then you know that you are doing something right. Otherwise, no one is even paying attention. Okay, so let's see if I have a slide. Yeah, that was my last slide. Quickly, those people who are in India, if you want to and the middle book, When Did the Mahabharata War Happen, is what I wrote in 2011. This 12,209 is what I wrote in 2014. And Bhishma Nirvana is what I wrote in 2018. If you are in India and if you are interested, I mean, the books will always be there. But right now, at 900 rupees combo package until the last set of 100 is gone. So hurry up if you are interested. If you are outside India, then on Amazon, you will see the same 3 books, slightly different cover. And you can get those from Amazon. So that's my last slide, Aditya ji. And let's see if we have a time, we will talk about Chiranjeev, or otherwise we can stop.
Chiranjeev is important because nobody wants to die.
Now, death, uh, that's something good, right? That's something good to start our next life on the right footing. Now, if you look at Bhishma's life, you see the life of Tyaga, life of renunciation, life of selfless endeavor right from the beginning. I mean, he did his first selfless endeavor for his father when father wanted to marry Satyavati, right. That's where it started. And then he has lived his whole life to protect the Kuru throne, because that's the promise again he has given, right. And then finally, because of his thing, he's selecting that. Now the word Chiranjeev that comes, and we have Ashwathama. What is that? Ashwathama, Balir Vyasa,
Mhm.
Hanumanscha Bibhishana,
Vision.
Krupa Parshuramascha Saptate Chirajivinam. Okay, so Hanuman, Vibhishan, to do it. One interpretation that I have heard, I'm simply sharing it. I don't have my own say on it. I'm not an expert in that area. Is that this is why they are called Chiranjeev. First thing, they lived a long life. That is one thing is true. But the second thing that I heard, and I have heard this multiple times from different people over many years, is that how they finally died, or where they exactly died, and in what form. Because you were talking, our vision is that we have all our loved ones surrounding us, and you said from a spiritual point of view that's not necessarily considered the good thing or whatever. These Chiranjeev, they died when they passed, left their body. Nobody knows when and where, and therefore in that sense also they are called Chiranjeeva. So that's what I heard, but I want to submit it to you for
So
back to you, sir.
in the most of these people, they left their bodies in a very glorious way,
Hmm.
but it is sometimes considered bad to discuss it, in
Hmm.
our society. I don't know why. Birth is celebrated, but the death is considered very negative, because I don't know what's the reason for that. But generally the misconceptions are there that discussing death is inauspicious or not auspicious.
I'll wait for you.
Yeah.
Okay. For a second, your screen froze there. So,
Yeah.
but Kabir has that. No, Kabir. I forgot now, but this was famous bhajan by Anup Jalota that I listen. So it's like when the somebody takes birth, that baby cries, everyone is laughing, joyful, and when the person leaves, that person may be happy, and everyone else is crying.
True. True. In fact, nowadays, in our society, people will be happy also when you leave. So you never.
Hmm.
So it's
So they are coming on the same page with the person who dies.
exactly. So it's a, and also if you're a yogi, then you automatically believe in that you have a next higher destination,
Hmm.
and that is the beauty of the yogi. That yogi never dies. Krishna also says it, that a yogi always, while leaving also is happy, and while doing yoga is also happy, and while coming in the life is also happy,
Hmm.
because the service never changes. And one thing strikes with the Bhishma character is, one of the words used for Bhishma is heavy, bhar, very heavy vows he has taken, very
I would
heavy.
say is so. With that, we complete this four-part series. I have many interesting research projects that have already been completed for additional series. But so we can do any of those, and we'll think Aditya ji and myself will think something. But Aditya ji is just as a way of suggestion. I'll say it may, if you like it, and we can talk offline also. It would be a good idea to do few episodes on the Indian calendar or the
Beautiful.
multiple Indian calendar systems.
Very good. I think the Vikram Samvat is the most
Hmm.
misunderstood term.
Mhm.
So we need to know what is Vikram Samvat and why Modi Samvat cannot be made. And this is also we should discuss.
But I see his screen is frozen. Okay, so some challenges there. So you take it off. So we are. I'm done as far as today is
So
concerned.
I was saying that a lot of Samvatas have been made, but
Hmm.
why Modi Samvat has not been made? We need to discuss that.
Okay, we will discuss that. How about this? Okay,
Yeah,
we'll start with the a hypothetical Modi Samvat and go back to all the Samvat. Okay.
correct. And because the GMT Samvat is already going on,
Hmm. What is that?
because Greenwich Meridian Time is also the setting of calendar.
Oh yes, yes, of course. Yeah,
So
yeah.
if the world can follow that, then why we cannot even talk about other calendars?
Hmm.
So thank you, viewers, for watching, and thank you for staying all the way despite some connections here. But thank you all for joining. Do watch it on YouTube and do search Nilkant Oak. It's a very famous word. You can search on the Google, you'll find it everywhere. And do buy those books on Amazon also. And do subscribe to Sattology channel. And we have lots of books, 6 books on Sattology already published on Amazon. You can buy them from there. And do watch for a live. The first time we'll do live on this coming Sunday on Yudhishthir. So do watch that. Till then, namaskar and thank you for joining.